biochemically, our bodies know when it's sugar and when it's not, because the reaction is so much different when we have a sugar to when we have like a healthy sweetener like honey, for example. Like our bodies know, but I kind of think our brain is like, oh, sweet is sweet, so it'll like kick in. Like, so if you're what I'm trying to say is, if you're having a sugar craving and have something with honey in it or maybe syrup in it, I think it satisfies the brain.
Welcome to Exploring Mind and Body with Drew Tadia. Drew is an expert in nutrition, fitness, lifestyle, and more. And he wants to help you live a healthier, longer, and more active life. Now here's your host, Drew Tadia.
Welcome to another edition of nationally syndicated Exploring Mind and Body. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in, for being a part of our True Form Life community. We're coming at you with a brand new show. We appreciate whether you're listening on terrestrial radio across the country or as a podcast around the world. We certainly wouldn't be here without you. So stick around. We got all that coming up.
This is Exploring Mind and Body. Naturally improve your lifestyle one show at a time with your host, Drew Tadia.
Good morning.
Good morning out there.
So today we're talking about sugar cravings. And I think that's an important one. And magnesium is something that we've been talking about a lot about lately. And it can help. So we're not going to be talking about magnesium too much. It'll be one of our tips. But I think when you look at the two, a lot of times people don't put together sugar cravings and how we can fight them or beat them. And then sleep as a whole and how that affects our day-to-day lifestyle.
I think one of the biggest things with sleep patterns is that we get complacent that if we aren't a good sleeper, we get complacent that, I'm just not a good sleeper. That's just the way it is. But really, there are things that we can do to change that and improve our sleep if we take action. So that's what we're going to talk about this morning, is how you can make some changes and take action to actually improve your sleep yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And there are things that we can do. And I think we have to understand that we're in control of our own health. And a lot of times, I don't think we realize that. Like, that's just the way it is. Like, I think there's, like, menopause is a big thing for women. And it's a very touchy subject.
Why did you pause? How does it make you uncomfortable?
It's a very touchy subject. But I think that a lot of women are just, like, during their, like, menopausal state, like, when that comes in their life, they're like, oh, I don't sleep because it's menopause, or I don't sleep because of hormones. And I'm not saying that doesn't have anything to do with it. I'm just saying, like, that's just a short snippet, for example. Like, some people say, like, oh, my whole family's heavy, for example. Or my whole family has, like, heart disease, so I'm going to get it too. Like, but there are things that we can do. Like, we can take action steps to improve our health and to prevent as a whole. So if we weren't so inclined to accept our situation, then we could be proactive and do something about it.
Yeah, I was like that. Like, I never understood the fact, years ago, I never understood the fact that I was in control of my own health. And I was one of those people who was complacent, right? Especially about my sleep patterns. I used to have horrible sleep. Like, I slept 5 hours, 4 hours a night. And, you drag yourself around in the day. But I just was complacent. Like, oh, I'm a bad sleeper. That's just the way it is. Until I took some action steps to improve that and change that. And I'd never realized that that was in my power before.
Take your power back.
Take it back.
You should have detoxify yourself.
How's my glasses, by the way? Got these new glasses. And they're new lenses. And because we're on the computers a lot and things, they put this, like, blue kind of thing. I don't know what it was called, but it's supposed to protect your eyes from the lights of the screen and the lights, or the, like, filter a little bit from the damage of screens, so computers and phones. But now every time I'm seeing this blue, and
it's like purple.
Yeah. No, I don't know if I like that.
Let us know if you like the blue or purple.
When you're traveling, you kind of have to make some exceptions to your everyday a little bit.
We're pretty good at that for the most part. Like, when we go, like, for example, we don't eat a whole lot of meat, but we go to someone's house if they're having, like, we don't eat, like, if we go to someone's house and we say they're having chicken, like, okay, we'll have chicken. Like, we rarely buy it. Maybe in the summertime barbecue we buy it a bit more. But for example, if they're making meat, we'll say, or we have like a little piece.
Yeah.
instead of being, oh no, I don't eat that. I think that'd be a bit challenging. So when we were going to Sri Lanka, we knew that there was we need to make some like adjustments or some exceptions. So sugar was one of them. Well, first of all, we didn't realize how much sugar they had in their diets.
Mm-hmm.
So like for the first week, we were like, okay, like sugar and tea. Sure. Like we didn't know what was in there first. And like, wow.
I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Even the kids are drinking tea. And then we drank it. We're like, whoa. No wonder they drank it because there was sugar in it, right? And anyway, so that was for a month, right?
We were there for a month. And when we got back, just wait. I just want to mention that we were there for the first week there was sugar and like sugar here, sugar there, like sugar and tea. So after the first week I was like, and I told Dorothy, I was like, I can't handle this. I said, like, I don't want to be rude, but we got to start saying something.
Yeah.
Like, we can't have sugar and everything. So we started saying plain tea. So no sugar, no cream or whatever. They don't really use cream.
No.
But so we started saying plain tea, like everywhere we went, plain tea. So that was one thing. And then we, for the most part, we did a pretty good job of avoiding sweets. Like we just say, no, thank you. Or we'd have like a small piece and then move on and like have more fruit, for example. So we had to make that adjustment. Otherwise, it would have been a month of it.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't be functioning properly.
Yeah.
Today still. So that's what I wanted to mention before you got past Sri Lanka.
Before it was over.
So
when we got back from Sri Lanka, we were most definitely in like a withdrawal, or we had definitely been addicted to sugar when we got back, which was tough. But then, this is kind of how we how we kind of came up with the topic for the show, because we noticed that because we had been having sugar, then other cravings pop up in our, on your mind constantly. So you have all these. Well, you were having cravings too, right?
I had cravings, but the thing is, I don't remember it. Like if I had cravings like this before, ever, it wasn't for years. I don't know how you were.
Yeah.
But
well, I think as women, because our hormones are so wacky, I think we experience, I don't want to separate men and women, but I do think we experience cravings more so because of our hormones, monthly schedules.
Can't exactly comment on that one.
So, it's normal for me to have monthly cravings.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'm not gonna say you don't. All I was saying is that I haven't experienced cravings like that for years or ever before. Excuse me. So when we went there, so many times they would make us like a dessert, for example, and it was all like sugar. And I thought it was interesting that sometimes they would make these like a big like plate of desserts and they wouldn't eat it. They would just make it for us. Like, oh no, we don't eat that, or we don't want that. It's for you. Which is super nice, but I just thought it was funny. Like, if you're going to make it, why don't you eat it?
But culturally, that's what they do, is when they have guests, they make a ton of food, first of all. But then your guests sit down and eat, and the host
doesn't eat.
Just stands and watches, basically.
Well, I think they more like wait on you. Like, well,
yeah.
So they're like, oh, do you need a napkin? Do you need a drink?
Yeah.
I think that's traditional.
But they kind of stand to the side. They don't sit down. Like here, it's tradition that you all, like the host and the guests, all sit down together and eat. But they didn't. They either ate before or after the guests.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So my point is,
sorry,
that after we got back, I went through like these crazy like sugar cravings, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't really remember experiencing this before. So like everything looked like good, like chocolate bars and candies and cotton candy and Slurpees. It was like everything. I was like, oh my, I was like, oh, I wonder what that tastes like. Oh, or I was like eating a healthy meal, like preparing a healthy meal, and I was thinking about something else sugary, which never happens. So it was almost like, I felt like it was almost like the first time I was experiencing what other people, like maybe some of our clients or fans or followers, when they're like, oh, I have sugar cravings, like, I just don't eat it. It wasn't really a big deal for me, but it was like a nice chance for me to be able to relate to people that struggle with cravings on a regular basis, and help to understand it better.
And it's funny how the more you have those things, like those sugary things, the more that it's harder to get away from. And then we're noticing after the fact, the more we got back into our regular routine and our regular way of eating, we stopped thinking about those things after a while. But it was hard to get over that hump.
Like for us, for me, like I understand that people say I crave this. Like maybe some women say I crave chocolate, for example, or I crave what else? I mean,
well, it's usually between salty and sweet, right? A lot of people are sweet cravings, so like baked goods and chocolates and things like that. But then some people are salty, like chips and crackers and things like that. So
yeah. So what I was saying is that usually it's one.
I crave both.
Usually it's
sweet
one.
And salty.
So usually it's like something. Usually it's like chocolate, for example. Like I'm craving chocolate. So whatever it was, like for me, it wasn't. I was just craving sugar. That's what I dealt with, and I was like, it was like this crazy. Like you can't stop thinking about it. Like almost kind of takes control of you. Like I need to have that, and that was just an interesting sensation because I don't really remember going through that.
Oh, and another one is carbs. Like
what is it? Sugar.
Carb cravings, like pastries and breads and
like bread and pasta craving.
Pasta cravings.
Yeah. So there'd be the sugar in the bread and pasta.
I would think so. Yeah. But still, like that. It's not like a sweet thing like a chocolate sugar craving. It's like a hearty carb craving. I get those. For
us, like for example, when we say like, here's a healthy snack, like try this, like that's okay. And then someone's like, oh, well, if I have that, then I can't stop eating it. But it's so like, I suppose it's one thing if you cook like a dozen healthy muffins and you eat all of them, that's one thing. But if you have 2 or 3 muffins in one sitting, like one is probably a good serving size. But if you have 2 or 3, it's not like you're going to like Krispy Kreme and eating 10 of those donuts. Yeah. But like if I have 2 bites of Krispy Kreme, I'm like, oh, it's like all sugar. One thing that really helps me is to have like protein balls or something in the fridge, because it really does satisfy, like when you have because there's honey in them, so honey or maple syrup. So if you have something already prepared in the fridge that's healthy, you can just grab it. It's already made, and then it helps satisfy. I said we put up on the Complete Truth Protein Facebook page, and I put Dorothy made these protein balls, and I said here's a little challenge for you. Put these in the fridge, and every time you open up the fridge, try not to eat one. Because they're so good. And I was doing that. That's why I put the post up. I was like, open the fridge. I was like, oh, I'll just have one of those. And then I come back an hour later, open the fridge. Oh, well, I'll just have one of those. So like every time I open the fridge, you have to have one. But the thing is that that's good for you. You can have that, and that will fight cravings. It won't, encourage the sugar cravings, because you're having something satisfying. It'll satisfy your sugar because it's natural. And then it will also energize you because it has healthy fats, it has complete truth protein, and it has all kinds of nutrients in it. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to worry about the sugar cravings. It'll actually help with that. So those protein ball recipes are pretty awesome. I think in your brain, like, it's like sweet is sweet. Do you think? Like, I mean, chemically, our bodies know when it's sugar and when it's not, because the reaction is so much different when we have a sugar to when we have like a healthy sweetener like honey, for example. Like, our bodies know. But do you think, like, I kind of think our brain is like, oh, sweet is sweet. So it'll like kick in. Like, I think so. Like, so if you're what I'm trying to say is, if you're having a sugar craving and have something with honey in it or maple syrup in it, I think it satisfies the brain. Like, I feel like if you have something sweet, regardless if it's healthy or not, then you stop thinking about it. Yeah, like, your brain's like, I got what I wanted. Right. And then your body's happy too. Right. And one of the big reasons I like to make my own healthy treats is because then I'm in control of what goes in them. If you buy a pack of cinnamon buns, for example, at the grocery store or wherever, at the bakery, you don't know what's in them, right? And same goes like for muffins. A lot of us are conditioned to that muffins are bad for you. Well, it's because if we pick up muffins somewhere else, they're usually white flour, white sugar, butter.
But if we make them at home, we can make the changes to make healthy muffins. But then we can take away that guilt as well, because if we have a nice flour, for example, say you have complete truth protein in there as your flour, say you have honey in there and coconut oil, as opposed to all those unhealthy things. Well, those things, those healthier versions, are actually going to help fuel your body, and it's not going to create those cravings or those negative side effects. So you know what? You can take the guilt away that way as well.
So the Coke wouldn't quench your thirst. Like you could drink Coke. Sometimes you can drink like a ton of water. You need something else to, like something like coconut water. Like you need electrolytes, something to quench that thirst, especially if you're dehydrated. So you'll just keep drinking Coke all day. Like if you're thirsty, for example. Yeah. If you're drinking it for sugar purposes or taste, that's a bit different. But that's the challenge. Like, and so for example, like if I buy a bag of chips, I'll put that bag of chips in a small bowl, and I'll be like, mentally, I'll say like, this is all I'm having, right? Doesn't always happen. Like sometimes I'll sit down, Dorothy's laughing at me. Doesn't always happen. Like I can eat lots of chips, but I think in most cases, I'll get a small bowl and pour the chips in the bowl and say, this is what I'm having for this sitting. Then you put the chips away. But if the chip bag is sitting on the chair, on the couch, or wherever, and you're not even like paying attention and watching, it's going to be gone.
It's going to be gone.
So, you know what, Dave, I'd be interested to know if you go to 7-Eleven and you get like the small size and drink that, will you go back to the store again? Or will you just be like, okay, that's enough? I'd be interested to know if that would help.
But what's funny is when Drew's having his little bowl of chips or something, I try to say, oh, no, thank you. Like, I don't want chips. Because, I mean, of course you like them, but chips aren't, like, I'll eat chips and I enjoy it, but they're not really my thing, right? Chocolate's my thing. But anyway, if he's over there crunching on chips, and even if I'm like, no, thank you, I'm going to be like, oh, maybe just one. But then it's like, oh, maybe one more. And so it's just crazy how it just doesn't stop. But that is why I think having a supportive environment is so important, because if you are not in a supportive environment, or you don't have supportive
strong
people,
state of mind.
Yeah. And if those people around you that you're hanging out with aren't supportive, and say they eat a bag of chips every night in front of you or beside you or wherever, then it's not healthy for you either, because it makes it so much more difficult when you're not working together towards the same goal.
And that'll happen like if it's football season, and I'll have like or whatever, baseball playoffs or whatever it is, and I'll have chips like in the house for like a couple weeks, right? And then Dorothy's like, all right, we need to take a break from chips in the house. Yeah. So like, okay, like that.
Or I'll have to tell Drew, you don't eat those around me. Like when I'm out of the house, then because I don't want to eat them, but if they're out, I'm going to eat them.
Yeah, but it's better if they're not in the house, because you open up a cupboard and you see them, or you open up the pantry and they're there. Yeah. So like in most cases, like, okay, we're going to take a break. And then like 2 or 3 months go by and there's like no chips or chocolates or something. You just don't put it in the house and we don't think about it. So then you kind of creeps in like, oh, there's a game on. I'm like, oh, there's a game. I want like a little bowl of chips. Like that's something I enjoy. A little bowl of chips and watch the game. So then that kind of creeps up again, and you gotta be like, hey, no more. Right. We're in Vegas, and there's this store called what's it called? Like the
Sugarland, or
it was called like the Sugar. It was like something very simple. But anyways, I was like, the sugar industry is like has got to be like the most innovative industry ever, because it's like one substance. It's like sugar, like white refined sugar, probably the most toxic thing we can put in our bodies, next to like pharmaceutical drugs or street drugs, however you want to put that. So if you look at sugar in its raw form, we've created like a billion different ways on how to consume it. Yeah. Like coloring, different names, different shapes, different sizes.
Drinks, food, like.
Yeah. And it's just sugar. So when I was walking by this sugar store, and you look in the store and there's like thousands of different ways to make to eat the sugar. And I just thought it was like crazy. To me, it was like a business mindset. It was like, And I was like, wow, I was like, the sugar industry is crazy. Like, it's one thing, it's like white refined sugar, and they've done so many different things to it that we're addicted to it and don't even know that we're consuming it in different ways. I just thought it was like, I was almost like humbled, or like, I was like, awed. I was like, oh my, wow, they've done a great job with sugar. Cravings are a lack of nutrients. Like, in the simplest form, like the easiest way I could explain it, when we crave something, it's like 90% of the time, I would say it's because we're lacking a nutrient. And then I would say the other 9% is because it's a habit. Like, you eat and then you have, you eat and then you want something sweet. Or you're watching the game, myself, I want some chips. Like, that's a habit that I've mentally,
conditioned yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then I would say the other 1% is like physically, like you need to have that, maybe hormonally.
I don't know.
Okay,
1%?
All right, that's my, just give me
That's
a second.
your opinion.
That's
Okay.
my opinion. But I would say, regardless of whatever percentages you want to look at, I would say in large part is because of lack of nutrients. So I would actually look at what you're having throughout the day and where you're lacking in nutrients. I would look at your entire nutrition and see what's lacking.
Yeah, I agree with you that I believe a large part of our cravings does come from a lack of nutrients somewhere. Like, we're lacking normally one of the macros. So sometimes if I'm having a craving and I look at what I've eaten in the day, I'm like, oh, well, I didn't have any healthy fats. So I'll grab a half of avocado or something because my body's telling me that it's missing something. But as far as the hormone thing goes, like, I think it's a little bit higher than 1%.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, but all right, let's have a little debate here. If you were to, like, if you had a well-balanced diet and if you had all the nutrients that you needed in a day, don't you think your cravings would be much better regardless of gender, hormones, time of the month?
It definitely helps. It definitely helps when, like, so during the hormonal stage of the month, if I have been, when you're on track and you're getting the nutrients that your body needs, it definitely decreases the cravings for sure. And if ever I give into the monthly cravings, then I'm hooked, because all throughout that time, then I just want more, right? So I definitely think it helps, and I'm not disagreeing that I'm not disagreeing that cravings arise because of a lack of nutrient. I'm just saying that hormones are hard. They are hard.
I don't remember the last time I sat down and had a glass of Coke, or like a glass of Pepsi, or like I used to love Dr. Pepper or Mountain Dew. And I'm not going to say I've never had them. Like, we're in Vegas and I'm like, oh, crazy. Like, I had a rum and Coke, for example. Like, and that's something I haven't had in years. And it's fine. Like, I'm not saying not have that. But I think that a lot of times we resort to those because it's like a regular thing in our lifestyle. But if they're not, like, if we remove them and replace them with something else, then we won't be craving them and won't be having them in our lives.
A lot of us are conditioned to supper and then dessert, right? So I think a lot of times in the evening, that's where the sugar craving comes from, is because it's a habit or it's in the mind. Like, you have your supper and then you need a dessert or something sweet. But I like what you're doing is you're having your supper and then the tea with honey, because you're still getting your sweet after. Mm-hmm. I still find myself that way. Like, the other day we had egg salad sandwiches for lunch, and we were done, and I felt like I needed something sweet after. So then I went to the fridge and grabbed a couple protein balls. But it's funny how, like, is that habit, right? Most likely, yes. Right?
That's a habit. Like, most times if it's around food, like, it's a habit, because there's no question. But you know what's interesting? I think you should try, every once in a while, we'll have dessert before dinner. You should try, like, digestion-wise, it's not a great idea to have, like, your sugar right before a meal. Like, that's not a great idea. But if you have, like, sometimes Dorothy will be making, like, a dessert or something. Like, oh, let's have some dessert. Like, we're grown-ups. We can do what we want. So, but we are so conditioned, because our whole childhood, it was like no dessert until dinner was made. And I actually had a friend, and she raises her kids very well. And she was like, this day of the week, we have dessert before dinner, because that's what the kids want. Like, You know, like, I think that's so cool. And I like never thought about it before. And I was like, I'm a grown up. I don't have to wait till supper before I can have my dessert. So every once in a while we'll have dessert, like our dessert, whatever Dorothy would make. If it's like some kind of like...
Well, sometimes it's muffins, sometimes like healthy muffins. Sometimes it's avocado pudding. Sometimes, and we don't always have dessert.
And yeah, and that's another condition. Like, it's rare that we have like a made dessert. I think like most of us growing up, it's like you have your dinner or supper, whatever you call it, and then you have dessert. Like, you have that, and it's been conditioned for so long. So many times we don't have any kind of dessert at all. But anyway, let me finish my point here. Try to have your dessert before your supper one night, and just see how it goes. Like, see how you enjoy it. Because what we get in our head that like, oh, our parents said, you're going to spoil your dinner if you have your dessert first. And I think many times that we don't eat as much. Like, I think portion control is a major issue for a lot of people, mostly because they eat too fast and don't realize how much they're eating. So if there was more mindful eating, I think that would help. But if you have your sugary or sugar substitute, whatever it is, before your dinner, I think you're going to have better portion control, and then you're not going to have so much craving after because you already have the sugar before. Anyways, interesting little experiment. If you try that, let us know.
Or make fruit leather. Fruit leather is so easy to make. You just puree your fruit that you want. You can add a sweetener if you want, or you can just leave it, like the fruit is sweet, right? And then you just, if you have a dehydrator, you lay out the pureed fruit on the dehydrator and stick it in the dehydrator. Or you can bake it really super, super low in the oven, and then you just like spread it out on a sheet. And then when it's done and it's dehydrated, you can roll it up, you can slice it up, whatever you want. Super easy.
Why don't you make some fruit leather?
Why don't you make it?
I didn't say it was easy. I was like, you can make your own.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's always like one thing that really, like, try not to let too many things drive me crazy, but one thing that would drive me crazy is, what is those ones?
Fruit roll-ups?
Oh.
I used to love me a fruit roll-up.
Oh, those, like, fruit by the foot ones, and the kids would like, in teaching, right? The kids would like open it up and like fling it out and like eat that, and I'm like, sugar. And again, like, once in a while, one of those things as a treat, that's fine. But daily on a daily habit, it would.
It's just, we're conditioned around habits. Like, I would say at least 80% of the things that we do throughout the day is from a habit. Like how you get up in the morning, how you have your lunch, dinner time, like going to work, driving to the grocery store, driving home from work. Like, we're conditioned to around habits. So that's why Dorothy and I talk about healthy habits like every day, or a morning routine. If you start your morning routine and you set your day up for success, you are successful.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to worry about having a successful day. It's successful already. So that's why we're so adamant about expressing healthy habits and helping others learn about them.
And morning routine is habit, right? It is a morning habits, right?
Yes.
We're creating those habits.
All right, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll catch you later on online somewhere.
Yeah. Thanks so much, guys. We will catch you later.
See ya.
Bye.
True Form Life.
All right, that's going to wrap things up for this edition of Exploring Mind and Body. Once again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in and being a part of our True Form Life community. You can always find us on Facebook.com/TrueFormLife. We post up there a couple times a day on our story. We're always trying to bring you more content around living a healthy lifestyle, whether that be nutrition, fitness, lifestyle, and more. We also have free challenges that we do at least once a month. So if you follow us along there, you'll be able to join maybe a plank challenge or a squat challenge, Tabata challenge, whatever it may be. We'd love to have you join us. We're also on Instagram.com/DrewTadia. Again, we're posting up there a couple times a day along with our story, all dedicated to keeping you fit and healthy and on track. Our main website is trueformlife.com. If you want to check out some of our products, some of our services, or if you just want some great content from videos to blog posts and recipes and more, we got all that at trueformlife.com. Once again, thank you so much for being here. That's it. That's all I got. I'm out of here. As always, I'm your host, Drew Tadia, in health and fitness for a better world. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Exploring Mind and Body with Trueform Life's Drew Tadia, fitness expert. To find out more about the show, Drew Tadia, or to listen to past shows, visit exploringmindandbody.com.